going on, guys? So it's been a pretty busy day. I had like 8 student sessions, about an hour each. Now I have to go to the gym, and then I have to make this video, and then I have to edit it, and then I have to live stream. And if I do all that and you see a live stream after this video, I have succeeded. If you do not, I've passed out after eating a bowl full of ramen noodles because it's my girlfriend's birthday celebration today. Anyways, today we're talking about one of the most underrated skills there is. This skill looks good on your portfolio. This skill looks good in general when you go to job interviews. And it's not, I mean, it's sometimes it's talked about in terms of like job applications, and then there are some jobs just dedicated to it entirely. But we're talking about open source today, and how to make an open source project, how to contribute to an open source project, the do's and don'ts of an open source project, and you can put this on your resume. You can talk about how you contributed and the process you went through. So this is a pretty detailed video on how to contribute to open source. And most of this information I'm pulling from Eddie Jowd's book. We did a live stream the other day. I don't know if you guys watched that, but you should go check it out. Senior software engineer, GitHub looking like freshly installed shower tile. I mean, like, this dude's on top 100 contributors. This dude knows what he's doing. And he wrote an open source book. And you can go to his website and get it, or you can go to his GitHub and get it. But I'm doing like a bullet pointed list of everything you need for open source, how to contribute, how to make one. I don't want to unzip it because, come on now, I'll lock the house door. Gosh, think this through next time, bro. I keep going to the gym and forgetting to buy a lock, so I end up having to carry this helmet around in my backpack, and it's just like, I gotta go get a lock first. What's super cool about this helmet is you don't have sunglasses, it doesn't matter, because you can just reach up here and you're good to go. We were talking about Eddie before, and his startup is completely open source, which means you could go right now, download his entire startup, and run it yourself. Open source in that regard is a great way to market yourself. You're like giving everyone free trials, and if it becomes too much of a hassle for them to do it, they'll just pay you to do it. In the future, and even right now, branding yourself is absolutely key to getting your name out there. And the thing with having an open source project for yourself is that you can get advice from other people, and so your code base tends to be better later down the line because it's open source and being in the public eye. I don't know if you've ever posted anything to Stack Overflow, but you post something on there, people are gonna show you how to do what you're trying to do in one line of code. Anyway, the whole point of this video is to take a look at some of the most important steps of making an open source project and contributing to an open source project. But I'm gonna go hit the gym before it gets completely dark, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about the actual steps here. All right, so we're done at the gym. Let's start with the first pro tip. If you wanna make an open source project, you need to keep that project public from the beginning. This is kind of like a mindset thing. If you have an idea for a project and you make it private, chances are that you might upload some private information, like some private keys, some server config info that you might not want to give out to the public. So keep it public from the beginning. Then you're coming in with the right mindset. You're very aware of uploading personal and private information. Whereas if you already have the project and you unlock it later, there might be some commits in there that people could go in and find. And all right, next up, typically you need a README. So in the README, I'll put a thing on the screen so you can see you need a name of the project, description, goals, you need some screenshots, some dependencies, any dependencies that you need, installation for Mac, Linux, and Windows, usage, how to use the project, contribution setup. So if people would like to contribute, what should they do and in what order and how they should do it. Now this normally comes in its own file called a contribution.md file that has like the exact directions and instructions for people that want to contribute to an open source project. You need a code of conduct, things to include, things not to include, like don't link to bad websites or include malicious stuff. It's open source, people can try to do it, but at the end of the day, you have to approve the pull request. So You could put like, generally please don't do these things. Changelog, release history, major version changes, or breaking bugs. Now if we're using GitHub, this whole video is based on GitHub, then you're gonna need syntax highlighting. And you can get that just by adding triple tick marks. If you don't know what a tick mark is, it's the thing over here on your keyboard next to the exclamation point if you're on the American keyboard. So I actually include some examples of open source projects that you can actually take a look at right now and try to contribute to if you want to. I'll put them in the description or pin them as a comment. Off the top of my head here, mainly off this list that I'm reading from. Here we go, I'm just gonna hammer them out real quick. 24 pull requests. Do What You Love, Founders and Coders, Hack Brexit, We Rock Tech, Women Who Hack for Nonprofits, Elixir Koans, Code Bar, Rails Girl, Summer of Code, Vote America. I know that if I was watching this video and I would be like, all right, this is great information, Josh, but like, do you have like an example where we could like take a look at like, you know, so go to those projects that I just listed. You'll see the README, you'll see Code of Conducts, you'll see the contribution.md file, which is like the directions for people that want to contribute. You'll see all that stuff that I mentioned in those examples, and then you can check those out down there. All right, so next up we got licensing. Now licensing can kind of be confusing. Luckily there's a website for that. It's just called choosealicense.com. You can go there and you can see all the differences between all the different licenses. So for example, MIT, you'll see that in most GitHubs. And the MIT license basically just says you can download this, you can do whatever you want. You could download my open source, you could change it, you could sell it for profit, you could make changes. All you gotta do is just say, hey, I got it from here. That's the bare minimum requirement. All right, moving on to pull requests. If someone submits a pull request on an open source project, try to get back to them within like 24 hours. I mean, that's just common courtesy. I know you got a lot going on. You might be real busy in life. We're all busy in life. Just try to, if someone submits a pull request, they're kind enough to try and help your project out for free. They're probably not getting paid. Just be kind enough to answer it within like 24 hours. All right, so now let's talk about like you contributing to someone else's project. Keep this in mind. It's better to do 10 tiny little pull requests than like 2 major pull requests. So the more code that people have to review, the longer it takes, and you could be messing with other files and other things in the project. I want to know exactly what the code is doing, line by line. Speaking of code, you want to keep your commits very, very small. Don't say how you're doing things, say why you're doing things. You can see how you're doing things by just looking at the code and the commit, but you always want to talk about why and try to keep that really short, like less than 50 characters, and spaces, they count as characters. So, and as a general rule of thumb, if you can, try to get your pull request reviewed by a second pair of eyes. Now, it might be a small project, might not have a second pair of eyes, but I would aim for just getting someone, get a friend, like not just a random friend, but like get your programmer friend to look at your code. And how many times have you guys been like editing something and then you forget like the closing tag on a div and you're like, that was it? I spent literally 3 days on this, and like a second pair of eyes. Also, side note, whoever said gear was like, you know, a game breaker for making YouTube videos, this is my tripod for my desk right now. So we can continue this video. Put this underneath the lens so that it stands up and okay. Let's talk about some ways to foolproof your code locally when you're contributing to an open source project. So you got linters, you got testing, automated tests, unit tests, whatever tests you want to run, and then you got continuous integration linters. Then you have automated tests on the continuous integration software, and then continuous delivery, and then you could go all the way down to like manual testing, which is like when you click around the app, and like really bad companies that have QA teams that are manual testers, like it's probably like the last one you want to do. When you have your own project, you want to try and make it accessible. So that means keyboard navigation, alt images for text, and transcripts for any videos that you might include somewhere, or to give instructions like an instructional video or something like that. Maybe have written instructions also. And then new technology. So maybe you have an idea for a project where 30 different things that you want to try. Okay, that just becomes a mess. It's better to use like 10 to 20% of the new technologies you want to try. Don't do everything all at once, especially if it's open source. You're going to be giving it to other people, and those people are going to know more about your new technologies than you do probably, and they might be changing things and you might think that's wrong, and then it just causes this mess. So try to avoid too many new technologies in your open source project. You're only as good as your weakest dependency. So make sure the dependencies that you're using, like the gems or packages or whatever it is that you're using, make sure they're kept up to date, make sure the security on them is good, make sure there's a good license on it, like it's open, or if they changed it and you can't use it anymore. And then, you know, just make sure they're active and the people publishing and keeping those dependencies up to date are active. And so I guess that's it. My script ended like right there. So this has just been like a really Cliff Note version of how to contribute to open source projects and how to have your own open source project. Actually, if you want, you guys out there watching, Eddie has a typo in his book in his README instructions. So if you guys want to practice, whoever gets to it first, I guess, you can raise an issue there and then fix his typo, and then now you get credit for your first open source contribution. So I don't know how many people are going to watch this, but he's got a couple typos in his README here. So, and before all of you guys rewrite his entire book on open source, click that like button, click that subscribe button, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. We have a Discord if you want to come talk to me and the rest of the fam on the grind reel. Got a lot of good people in there, answer a lot of questions. Eddie's in there if you want to ask Eddie some questions. And by the way, be sure to check out Eddie's YouTube channel. I'll also pin that as a comment down below. He goes to conferences, he goes to hackathons, he interviews a lot of people. He's going to be doing GitHub reviews, so you can go to his channel and then drop your GitHub link and then be like, hey, review my code, review my project, and he'll go look at it because he's like a Jedi that knows like every language to the T pretty much. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. I think my girlfriend's just home from work. How was your day?
It was good.
It was good? This is your birthday today. What do you want for dinner? I'm neglected emotionally.